Messages received to the Zoom chat during this meeting will be part of public record and attached to the meeting minutes. Let's start by doing a quick round of introductions. Tell us your name and your role. My name is Sheila Shaw. I'm a Sub-Area 3 representative and current chairperson.
Mark Elliott, Sub-Area 2 and Vice Chair.
Jim Sherman, Sub-Area 2. Daniel Deal, Sub-Area 4.
Lisa Beatty, Mayor of Milwaukee, Sub-Area 5.
Provo Border, Sub-Area 1.
Linda Newman, Sub-Area 1, and JLCPO Acting Chair.
Laura Jakes, Milwaukee Parks and Recreation Board Chair and Area 5.
I'm Joel Bergman. I'm representing the community centers.
Paul Savas, liaison to the board. I happen to live in Sub-Area 2.
Erin Rion, Planning and Development Director for NCPRD and Staff Liaison to the DAC.
And hello, everyone. My name is Kia Sully. I am the NCPRD District Director.
Okay, thank you. If you'd like to provide a public comment and are attending in person, please fill out a comment card and turn it in to me. If you're attending virtually and would like to provide a public comment, please select the raise hand feature when the public comment portion of the meeting has begun, and we will call on you in the order received. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes. They were distributed in the packet that you received. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Okay, seeing that there are none, do we need to vote if there's no corrections? We need to approve.
I move to accept the meeting minutes.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the meeting minutes. All in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, opposed? Raise your, okay, hands down. Opposed, please raise your hand. Okay, minutes are approved as written. We will now open the public comment portion of the meeting. As a reminder, if you'd like to provide public comment and are attending in person, please fill out a comment card and turn it in to me. I don't seem to have any. Okay. Is there anyone online that's wanting to make a comment?
There is not. But you know what? I just realized as we went around the table, we didn't touch on the DAC members to introduce themselves to our online.
Okay, well, let's pause here and let's have the DAC members that are online introduce themselves.
Vote.
Jeanette or Josh, would you like to?
Hi, everyone. Josh Fisher, Sub-Area 4.
Hello, I'm Jeanette DeCastro. Pronouns are she and they. I'm in Sub-Area 3.
Okay, thank you. So with no cards and no raised hands, comments are now closed. And I will now turn the meeting over to Kia and Helen for say that you. Okay, all right, so I am going to turn it over to Callie, just to me. Oh, to Kia for the district report. All right.
Thank you, Chair Shaw.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. Tonight, I'll start my report with some really good news. And I know that many of you received this in an email, but this is a public meeting on video, so I'm going to share this publicly since it's such great news. Impact Northwest, a local nonprofit, is now providing transportation to and from the Milwaukee Community Center 3 days each week. You'll recall that NCPRD's transportation program was eliminated as of December 31st of last year due to current fiscal year budget reductions. This current service is a pilot program that we hope to continue next fiscal year, and it's funded exclusively through grants without any NCPRD subsidy. I want to thank NCPRD staff, Candy Ho and Marty Hanley. Candy's here tonight. Candy, raise your hand. Thank you. And Marty Hanley was not here tonight, as well as staff at the Clackamas County Procurement and Health and Human Services Department for working quickly in December during the holidays to develop a contract with Impact Northwest so that this service could start promptly in January. So thank you very much. Also, the Milwaukee Community Center continues to provide 5 days of service, thanks to the generosity of the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation. You'll recall that funding for 1 day of service, we called it the 5th day of service in the budget reductions, was eliminated due to current fiscal year budget cuts. The foundation's funding of the 5th day of operations for the second half of this fiscal year allows NCPRD to continue with center programming, drop-in activities, and congregate meals through June 30th of this current year. This is in addition to the foundation's $180,000 support this current fiscal year for the nutrition program. So they have been very generous to NCPRD. The NCPRD board will hold its first quarterly meeting of 2026 on January 28th here at Concord Community Center. The district advisory committee is invited to a casual meal in advance of that meeting at 5 p.m. with the board. Please get in contact with Jessica and RSVP if you plan to attend so that we have an accurate head count for the meal. A public workshop will be held for the DAC as part of the Metro Community Choice Grant Program on Wednesday, February 11th from 5:30 to 7:30 here at the Concord Community Center. At the workshop, you'll have an opportunity to develop project ideas with Metro staff and Metro's design team. Members of the community are also welcome to attend, and Metro will be hosting a dinner. So please come and participate. At the November DAC meeting, Vice Chair Elliott relayed community concerns about the safety of the mid-block crossing on Concord Road, just in front of the community center here. Following that meeting, NCPRD staff met with county transportation staff and are actively working on solutions, both short and long-term, to improve the safety of that mid-block crossing. So county transportation has already completed refreshing of the crosswalk striping. They've added new crosswalk signs that are double-sided, so you can see them from both directions. They've added reflective strips to the crosswalk signs to improve their visibility, and they've trimmed some of the vegetation to improve visibility to those crosswalk signs. This spring, potentially even before our next DAC meeting, county transportation will also be installing in-street crosswalk sign bollards in the middle of the road on each side of the crosswalk. So there's kind of a vertical reminder that there's a crosswalk there. They're going to add those stop bar pavement markings so that people know where to stop for pedestrians. And those will be, of course, in advance of that crosswalk in each direction. And they're going to provide additional bike lane pavement markings. So even some new things to come, and our hope is that that makes that mid-block crossing safer for people, especially since a lot of cars are coming down Concord rather quickly because of the grade. I do want to thank NCPRD staff for reaching out so quickly. So thank you for doing that. But also I want to thank county transportation staff. They were really responsive, and we really appreciate their support in improving safety and access to the Concord Park and Community Center. And I will add, as well as the Oak Lodge Library too. NCPRD staff have also been working on an update to NCPRD's naming policy to align that policy with the modified process that the board followed to name this particular site, the Concord Park and Community Center. We learned a lot through that process. And so staff are going to be bringing that updated naming policy to the board in a policy session soon. The plan is actually to come back to the DAC probably after the board policy session in March and check in on and receive DAC feedback on those modifications. And then a board consideration of approval would happen after the DAC meeting. So we're trying to go through a series of steps here, and but there will be an opportunity for the DAC to provide input on those modifications. And they're rather minor, but we do think it's kind of a perfect time to update the policy after having gone through a naming process. The county's transportation system plan is underway, the first update since 2013. This is a great opportunity to influence access to parks and centers that for NCPRD across the district, as well as other community destinations and travel throughout the county in general. There are a series of community workshops that are spread across the county. So if you're interested, please visit the county's transportation website. I have a few announcements about NCPRD events that are coming up. Winter programming started this past week, and it's great to see classes here at Concord as well as at the Milwaukee Community Center. On Monday, January 19th, NCPRD will close all facilities in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. birthday. Also, please volunteer for the Spring Park Habitat Enhancement on January 24th. And mark your calendars for spring registration for NCPRD district residents, which starts on February 3rd. NCPRD will also host its annual Lunar New Year celebration at the Milwaukee Community Center on February 7th. And I want to just reiterate, February 7th, there were some earlier dates that were scheduled, but we've landed on February 7th. So please check your calendars. My final comments are to recognize two staff. One is here tonight. First, NCPRD Finance Supervisor Kelly Gentner was one of 12 county staff recognized by the County Treasurer, Brian Nava, for her collaboration and service to the county and the community. I hear frequently about Kelly's excellent teamwork and her expertise, and I'm thrilled that she's been recognized by her peers in the Treasurer's Department. And I think Sheila wants to give her a round. Thank you. That's perfect. And I think I might be going a little overboard here, but I have to say that tonight is Kelly's birthday.
Oh.
She's choosing to spend part of her birthday with us. So let's give her another round. We will spare you singing happy birthday, but thank you for being here tonight, Kelly. Also, a community member recently emailed NCPRD to recognize George McGinnis. George is not here tonight, one of our park maintenance team members. She writes, "Hi, I'm writing today to recognize the North Clackamas Parks Department weekend facilities employee, George. I frequently run along the trolley trail and often stop to use the restrooms there. I've seen him working on cleaning the restroom multiple times over the years. Having a clean public restroom is a huge privilege that I'm grateful to have, and I know this is due to employees like George who keep the facilities in great condition. I very much appreciate his work." So that's a great place to have. So this concludes my direct report. Thank you.
So at this time, we're going to move on. Oh,
Can I
didn't,
just,
sorry.
while you're giving kudos, I wanted to give kudos to the new maintenance director, or whatever his title is. Eric, are you Eric?
Yeah.
No? Oh, nice to meet you. He had to answer 2 calls in recent weeks, one for Milwaukee Bay Park and the backlog of wood debris against the dock, and the other for the dumping of a bunch of tires outside of Mill Park. So those happened over the holidays, and they got to them really quickly, and I really appreciate the work responding to that.
I appreciate that. I'm gonna deflect all of this kudos to my team who really kind of helps to coordinate this stuff and help me with answers. I'm new in my role, but I'll get to that in just a sec here. But I appreciate that, and I will add my team on to that. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Mara. That's really
Yeah, right.
appreciated. And thank you, Eric.
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't see her. All right, so now it's time to move on to a discussion about the DAC budget priorities exercise, and that's going to start with Director Selly and Callie Gentner. And while we're waiting for the computer to come up, Some of you may be using the yearly invitation to this meeting rather than the monthly one that Jessica sends out, and the yearly one is in error. It has all the meetings taking place at the aquatic park, but our meetings will all be happening here at the Concord Center. So on my phone, I hadn't opened up any of her new invitations. I just was using the yearly one that had come through, and that's the one that says the aquatic park. So apologize for any confusion.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Callie Gantner, Finance Supervisor for NCPRD, and PSLE, Director for NCPRD. Tonight, we'd like to create space for any reflections, feedback, and questions following the budget priorities DOT exercise that you all completed in November. At the last DAC meeting, we asked you to provide input as to which programs are most aligned and least aligned with the mission statement. The feedback you provided was informative and very valuable to staff and has been helpful as we build the budget. I wanted to reiterate that this exercise was just one of many data points considered as we build the fiscal year 2026-27 budget. So it's possible not all feedback will be reflected. A summary of the results is provided in your packet, and I will also leave them here on the screen. Programs on the left were seen as most aligned with our mission, while those on the right were considered less aligned. I will now hand it over to Sheila, who will lead the discussion from here.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to hear from each of you about your thinking on this topic. Just in general, thoughts and impressions. This is the information that we gave. So take a minute, take a look at that, and is there anything that you'd like to share, your thinking, questions that you have? I know it's difficult for us to be losing things. Hey, Grover, I believe yours.
Oh,
Are you?
Oh, you're gonna yield to.
Clear my throat.
Okay, Linda.
Well, just an observation, I was surprised, and I know none of us can answer it for me, but under the least closely aligned, the number 2 bullet, that capital repairs and replacement came in so low. Having worked for a community college that never had enough money ever to do capital repair, I understand how expensive postponing that type of work can be, and so I would have liked to have seen that one higher.
A higher priority, yeah. Grover?
Yes, thank you. I just have general questions. I trust that the staff was much more attuned to what this all entails. For me, the process was a bit challenging because I don't know what each of those titles entails, nor what funding sources are tied to each of those titles. And it causes me, like under the adult services and then the adult classes, both of those, I wonder, is there other funding that could be coming in that we don't know about? Because this was directed towards being a function of how it affects the general fund from NCPRD. And so I was a bit out of, I trust they'll make good decisions, but to have my input be included in this as though this is what I advocated for, I would rather not be included in that because I clearly did not have enough information. So if we could get more information about what other funding sources are in there, and I also want to give kudos to NCPRD up to this point, the places finding funding, they've done a great job. I'm always thrilled about the things they find more money, but we don't know, so I can't make informed choices based on what I did or didn't know. So that's all. Thanks.
Director Sally?
I'm happy to respond in part to that if it's helpful, because I think that's a great question, Grover. So thank you for asking that. So all of these categories or program areas that you see on the board here on both sides of the columns, they're all general funded. Now, we might be able to seek a grant that would help subsidize some particular program for a certain category of adults from time to time. But in general, all of these program areas require general fund. Even capital repair and replacement, we can't use system development charge funds for capital repair and replacement. Now, if we accomplish other goals, such as like Metro's goals for nature play or something like that, we could possibly rebuild a playground that's a nature play oriented playground with a Metro, in part with a Metro grant. But typically, all of those grants require some matching funds. So again, all of these program areas require general fund in some way, shape, or form. And to your other concern, which I think is a perfectly valid one, which is we don't expect any of you to know these programs and all of the contingent relationships that these programs have with other programs. So that's why Kelly said in her opener that this feedback, it's a data point. It really expresses your values and where in a constrained environment in terms of resources, you want us to focus our resources or focus our investments. And so we are taking this information as one data point. It's a big data point from my perspective, because you all know our business probably better than any other community group, other than the NCPRD board. And we are using this information to put together our budgets. But there are some things that you'll see in our final budget, our budget that comes up, that's the proposed budget that will be posted in May. It won't directly reflect this feedback for that very reason. So it's just one data point, Grover. And again, I want to just emphasize that this was really useful information for NCPRD staff. So thank you.
Joel?
Oh, well, I kind of along those lines, I guess. I know we've already discussed how challenging this exercise was. And I guess for myself, just to reiterate, I really had to go through the lens of, okay, I need to look at the mission statement as it was, and that is solely it. That's the filter. And so when we're trying to do these rankings or whatever, I wasn't ever thinking, well, older services are now in the garbage. They are gone forever. They just don't align with the mission statement, or, capital improvement or repairs, et cetera. I guess my point is, I wasn't tossing any of these away. I was saying they didn't align with the mission statement. I don't think anyone wants to do away with any of these things, obviously. But also they may need to find another home before they are, I guess, shifted away. I guess that was just my observation, kind of reiterating. I'm sure most of us feel that way, I would hope, but it was a really challenging exercise. And again, a good reminder of how difficult it is to be in the position to actually have to make choices like this. So that was it.
Okay, so other comments? Do you feel like this reflects our DAC values and vision that we have, the mission?
I guess I felt the same way as Joel. I felt like I'm reading this, it was framed as, here's our mission statement. Now, what are your priorities? And so it's not surprising that it came out this way. But I have to harken back to the 1990-91 ballot measure that created this district, which clearly put senior services on equal par with parks. If you look at those documents from that time, they were on equal par with parks as the reason for creation of this district. So I think we can't lose sight of that. And if the county has, a strategy for another way to perform those services, awesome. But I think we can't, we are in a period of increasing elder homelessness. People over 55 are the fastest growing part of the homeless population. We cannot stop serving that population. I just watched the thing on it. There's a movie made here in the Portland area called No Place to Grow Old that they showed on OPB this week, and it's quite devastating to watch. And then, so that's one observation. The other thing I think would be useful to know, because you did say that, you know, all of these things to some degree rely on the general fund, but some of them generate fees, you know, the classes and the sports. Where are we on cost recovery? How much subsidization? I mean, we talk about the senior services as being subsidized from the general fund, but the classes are also being subsidized from the general fund. So where are we on the level of cost recovery we are able to do versus comparable other districts? That is something I'd be interested to know.
Okay, well, I'll answer that kind of at a high level, Mayor, but this is a great question. Thank you. I think that cost recovery would actually be a good presentation that we could give you, because we have a lot of materials on cost recovery. And we have a short paragraph on cost recovery in our budget document. So for those of you that want to read about it, you can actually go to the budget document. It's quite informative. And we think of a triangle that really the most cost recovery is at the top, where we serve individuals, and swim lessons are the best example. So we get really the most cost recovery when we serve the individual. And then we get the least cost recovery when we serve a broader audience. Think like movies in the park and concerts, those are all free. So we're not looking for cost recovery there. But we are actually trying really hard to get more cost recovery. The board just approved a new fee and fine policy, which has been really helpful to allow us to increase our fees. We didn't really have a construct in recent years to do that. So we now have the infrastructure. But I think, as I said before, we are also trying to make sure that we don't price out our district residents from the market and from classes. So we're trying to achieve the most cost recovery that we can for those, particularly for those individual activities. But we're also trying to stay competitive regionally, and then also make sure that our cost increases aren't substantial, you know, just year over year for our district residents. So those are the variables we're dealing with, but I'd like to bring this back as a topic at some point, because I think it's actually something that we could go kind of deep on, and we could have a good conversation with, and we would appreciate your feedback.
Yeah. Other comments? Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well, I want to kind of, Joel kind of said it, but I'll just say it a little bit differently. As I look at the questions that were on the board, you know, most closely aligned the NCPRD mission, you touched on that, and the mayor did as well to some degree. So I certainly, we know that it takes money to do any of those operations, right? And that's, you know, what the exercise is about, to help guide priorities and decisions that are funding. But, you know, we didn't really ask the question, should we fund it or not fund it? It's really, how does it meet the mission? And I think I walked away that evening with, I mean, if you look at, was it number 2 and 3 of the first one, most closely aligned, what I thought was refreshing was that we put a lot of value in youth and kids. And I think that is, I think a lot of people automatically gravitate. That's one of our priorities. But to the mayor's point and some of the other issues that have been raised, senior services and the fastest cohort of population that are falling into homelessness are senior citizens. So it's a big issue for us. And in the hat that I wear, not here today in NCPRD, but the hat I wear generally, we are always trying to take issues and say, where does that belong? Does it belong in this department? Is that mission critical for us, or is it more mission critical for another department? And what appropriate funding streams are there to take care of that? So in the vast array of the funding streams we get and the services we provide at the county, we're always doing that. So I think this was a great exercise in that regard, to some degree, to help guide staff. And Kia, I think you said all the right things as far as how your staff navigates that. But the one that was interesting was number Where was trails at?
The trails.
Yeah, number one on the other and number two, we're okay with maintaining them, but on the opposite side, it's a capital park. So I thought that was interesting.
I wonder how much that reflects us not really understanding, like Grover was saying, because I look at I have a little chart here with the dots up, and it's, operation and maintenance has all these greens, and capital repair and replacement has all the reds, so. Okay, Jeanette DeCastro.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great segue because I had this similar comment about item number 2. I wouldn't be surprised if staff elevate that in the list because I work in the field of transportation, and when you don't maintain your assets, they really do degrade to the point of you just have to replace. And so I also could see why if there's a bridge on a trail, that could be a real hindrance for a capital replacement. Or it's not exactly a capital project if it's already existing. That was a comment on that. The wondering I have is if any of these are seen as keystones or sort of a block that if you pull away, it will shift others in terms of how they serve community or how much community participates. I think transportation is probably the best example that we have got good news about. And then my third thought after that question is it really reiterated and reinforced to me the need for additional revenue. And I know that that's really tricky because a lot of working people are very are feeling the squeeze as well. So I'm really hoping for some creative thinking about how to generate revenue that betters our community. Thank you.
Okay. So make sure there's nobody's things are up. So looking at this, is there anything that you'd like to change on this in terms of our reflections and what we're telling? Grover?
Well, I don't know that I would use the word change. Thank you for that. But I look at this building as a particular resource. And I know there's a funding limitation on what NCPRD can do with this building. Then I look, hearing what Commissioner Savas said a minute ago about the whole district and the hat of, and I would like to see much like they did for parks and the proximity to for parks, etc., but also for service access. I mean, I have lived here for 36 years or I don't know, a long time. And from what I understand, if you are someone who needs services, it's a bus, a transfer, and a bus to get up to Red Soils. And it would be, in my opinion, if we had the space here and the services could come down and represent here, not putting a strain on NCPRD, but using this underutilized space to have one. Because when I first got on the library board a long time ago, but Bend has been doing that for years, that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you can go to the library and get access to representatives from other services. And it just seems like, what is the nexus of populations that need services? And we have a resource, and not have it be NCPRD funded, but to have it be in Health and Human Services or whatever. So that's the point I want to get into this mix, because I don't know that we're looking at all the resources. We're looking at how many dollars we have and what can we do with those dollars. So we have a resource that's sitting here underutilized. I'm thrilled it's here, and over time it'll get more utilized, but there's a need now and funding from elsewhere. Thanks.
Any other comments that anybody would like to make?
Only because nobody else made it.
Hey, Grover.
I want to wait to make sure everybody has a chance. I have a question as to the mission statement. I don't remember ever having a process that we did where we got to look at that and give input to that. And I look at it as lacking, connection, and I don't want to change it right now, but I look at connections to nature and play. Well, how about community or connections? Or, I mean, I don't want to try to wordsmith it in any way, but I just think there's so much more that can be in this mission statement than this. It's a great place to start, but I would like to know why and when could the DAC have a
Yeah.
chance to.
And it was part of the system plan things, but
Well, true, but we didn't compose it, it just got posted
Oh,
in
I
the
see what
system
you're saying.
plan, and that's where it was.
well, something that I was thinking about or talking about to someone the other day was the idea of play. And what is it that when you hear the word play, what is it that you think? What does that mean to you? Is play just kids?
I would also note during the system plan process, there actually was a small group from the DAC that did workshop both the mission and the vision statement as part of the system plan process. So Sheila and Daniel both participated in that and had an opportunity to actively wordsmith that. And we made some pretty substantial refinements to the mission and the vision based on feedback received.
Unrelated, Aaron helped me remember, also the earlier conversation about fees. Last year, we did raise the fees. The Board of County Commissioners approved raising the fees, or the Board of Directors of NCPRD approved raising the fees. So that was a staff recommendation, which took a couple, 3 years actually to get across the finish line, but we did do that last year.
So nobody wants to talk about play.
Oh,
Daniel.
Maybe no. I would just add that, I sat in on the community center meeting 2 back, and it was a couple weeks after we did this exercise, and it was definitely a contentious point that took some time out of the agenda. Just the focus on the mission statement being like how the lens that we did the exercise through, and things not feeling included. And Grover, to your point, like the words are not there, or there's too few. It's just, and the exit subcommunity, I've come away with it just more confused. Like it's constantly going to be an issue because no one's going to be happy. Not like, I don't know if it's a thing to revisit immediately, since the system plan itself was such a long process. I just, that's my like raw feelings. Like it just seems like a thing we get hung up on, and it is good to have a lens, but I don't know what the answer is to what words to add.
Yes, Laura.
I'll just add, because I do remember when we did this exercise, we started it by having I think the mission statement was made up when we were doing it. And I love your question about like who is play for. And so yeah, we're not going to change the mission statement per se, but that was definitely a lens when I was going through this that I was looking for, because when it came to senior services, they're listed as social services offerings and services. That doesn't sound like play. So I don't remember my mind space then, but I think that maybe some of us were thinking about that when we were going through it.
Oh, thank you. Jeanette?
Yeah, thank you. I have a jumble of thoughts, but I'm going to try to smooth them. Play is absolutely associated with kids, but I can attest that adults play, and even seniors play. Maybe people I know like to go to casinos, and that's not something NCPRD is going to offer.
That's an idea, actually. It's not a bad idea.
Casino night. You can deal troll. But all of that to say, it does spark for me that, I like video games occasionally, and sometimes when I play a video game, I can be in a park. That's Pokemon Go. It's been around for a long time. Other types of video games are not necessarily going to be at NCPRD unless it's teen night. But I don't think that NCPRD has to be all things to all play. It's something we want to make as robust and accessible as possible, but it can't be all things to all people.
All right, well, I'm going to move us forward then to the exciting world of the emerald ash borer management. And for that, excuse me if I pronounce names wrong, but I'm going to turn it over to Director Selly, Eric Brill, and Lauren Carey.
Thank you very much. Thanks for providing us some time. My name is Eric Brill, and I haven't had the pleasure to sit in front of this group just yet, but I've had a chance to meet a few of you in my first few months here. I am NCPRD's new Parks and Facilities Maintenance Division Director. So it's been a fantastic few months for me, as you can imagine, kind of a busy and overwhelming few months. But I will say that one of the things that I've been struck by has been just how fantastic the staff is here, both on an administrative level and a program level. And I will say that my team, I feel very fortunate to have such a fantastic team. So I have an easy job tonight of introducing you to one of our best staff members, a superstar staff member. This is Lauren Carey, and she is our natural resource coordinator. So speaking of kind of the natural areas and trails throughout our district, that is Lauren's role within our department to kind of oversee those areas and the maintenance and all kinds of interesting issues that come across her plate. So, but one of the things that Lauren has been putting a lot of time into, in addition to her typical work activities, is to help educate us within NCPRD and outside of NCPRD about an emerging and really substantial issue facing the district. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Lauren, and she's going to help you with some of that education, and we'll go from there. Lauren.
Thank you, Eric. I'll have time for questions at the end as well, but feel free to butt in if you don't understand anything. So I'm here today to talk about the emerald ash borer. You guys may have heard about it on the news. There was a sighting seen in Portland in 2025 and in Oregon City this summer. So we're kind of right in the middle of two outbreaks. To just quickly go over what emerald ash borer is. It's an invasive wood-boring beetle that kills ash trees. We have a lot of ash trees in this area, basically throughout the entire Pacific Northwest and riparian corridors. The emerald ash borer has a 99% mortality rate for trees that do not get treated. The way it works is that adult beetles will lay their eggs in the bark, and it's actually the larvae that kill the tree. They burrow in, they create these S-shaped burrows throughout the tree and kind of kill it from the inside out. It cuts off nutrient and water transfer, and you can see death of the tree within 2 years after infestation. So far, it's been the highest cost forest pest in North America. It started off in the Midwest. It's gone through Michigan, a bunch of those states. It jumped over to Colorado, and then in 2022, it was found in Forest Grove. And we've seen just smaller outbreaks since then. So I believe last year was found in Yamhill, Marion, Clackamas County, Lyon area, and then this year we saw it in Portland and Oregon City. So as far as regional impacts go, the biggest ecologically will be on our riparian ecosystems, and that's areas along streams, creeks, and rivers. You go down the Tualatin on a summer day and look up, almost all of those trees are ash trees. They provide a key role in the ecosystems, and we're one of the few species around here that can kind of handle our super wet winter, super dry summer climates. In addition to natural areas, we use ash trees as landscaping trees all the time. So there's Oregon white ash, which is the native that you see in our natural areas, but there's also Eastern ash, American ash, other varieties that are common as landscape trees, street trees, and just shade trees in parks. And then particular to us, we have a lot of parks like North Clackamas Park, for example, that are kind of built around different streams and creeks. And so we have this, they call it a wildland urban interface, where natural areas and then urban areas kind of meet. And we have these little micro habitats that will be heavily impacted by the loss of these trees. And so how close is Emerald Ash Borer? I mentioned it was found in Oregon City and Portland. It's within 5 miles of Trillium Creek Park in Damascus, and then 10 miles from the rest of the district. And I listed some of the response plan recommendations from the Oregon Department of Forestry. We're kind of at the set and go stage here now, so we're ready to start management and do our public outreach. The first step in management was to take an inventory of the ash trees in the district. So my coworker Joe Dolphy and I went through all the properties that NCPRD manages and looked at areas where people, property, or infrastructure might be and prioritized those to go through. So even if it's an area of the park where there isn't a trail or a picnic bench, if we know that people walk through there, we went through and we tried to find every ash tree we could within 20 feet of that. Same thing for property lines. If it could fall in someone's house, someone's backyard, we reported that too. The data we collected was the diameter of the tree, and the standard for that is kind of the diameter at breast height, so 4 feet up, we measured around the tree. And that gives us a good sense of how large the tree is, and it's easier to collect in height. We used a scale from Oregon State University on the condition of the tree, just to see how healthy it is. It was a quick visual assessment based on the canopy. We looked at the hazard risks, so what might this hit if the tree were to fall? And how impactful would that be? All that data is stored in GIS, which is a software application used by municipalities worldwide to store mapping data. I created a web map that staff can use to look at the trees, and then we can change that in real time. So if I mark the tree as doing pretty well last summer and I go out and the tree is not doing well, I can change that pretty quickly. And then we know in our planning that maybe we need to change how we're handling that tree. And as far as the trees we found, we did mark most of them. You guys may have wondered what all the dots at North Clackamas Park are. Those are all ash trees. And most of them are in excellent to good condition and about mid-size. So we do have a very healthy ash population, which is somewhat unfortunate. And on the slide, you can see just an inventory based on park. It's kind of hard to see. North Clackamas Park has our highest amount of ash trees by a long shot. It's about 250. The next is Holland Swanson, which is an undeveloped property. It's a wetland, so it kind of makes sense. It's the second. And then the rest are sitting at about 50 or under. All right, and this is just an example of what the web map looks like for staff. This is North Clackamas Park and all the trees we found. The size of the circle correlates to diameter, so I can kind of get a quick visual when I'm looking at it and be like, okay, there's a really large tree right here. And this is what I was saying, we can edit while we're out there. And it's just proven pretty easy to use to look at parks and think about the canopies, think about other things when we're making decisions. All right, so now I'm going to move into what our management plan is. It's just starting off with the objectives and what we want to think about as we're making decisions on these trees. The first is prioritizing public safety. I'll get into this a little bit later, but the trees become really brittle when they're infested by emerald ash borer. They become really expensive to remove because arborists don't want to climb them. They have to use cranes or other equipment, and their risk of shattering and falling becomes way higher. So that's our number one. The second is thinking about the ecology and just the value of our parks. So we want to mitigate the amount of canopy we're losing as this pest goes through our area, and think about shade loss and think about replanting and how we can protect the parks for the future. Similar to that is just proactive management to protect our investment in the district. So this can get very expensive if we're not actively managing it, and we need to think about that as we're choosing what to do. And then the final goal is, because this is beyond NCPRD, it's in the whole area, is we want to educate the public on what we're doing, but also on emerald ash borer, and if they have property nearby or land that they're interested in, what you can do to slow the spread and try to mitigate some of the impacts. And I just wanted to talk a little bit briefly about the decision making as we're looking at these trees and deciding what we might do. All the responses were based on the inventory and current conditions. So like I said, we can go and on the ground change what we're seeing and what we're thinking based on current conditions. The trees that we do leave standing are going to be ones that aren't going to pose any risk to people, infrastructure, or property, and provide some sort of habitat service by being down wood. And then the trees that we chose for removal or treatment were based on a variety of factors, but listed a few: condition and health of the tree, the size, the location, the existing canopy in the park, and then the risks to other people. So there are kind of three response options that we can take to this. The first is doing nothing and just letting the trees die. In some natural areas, that might not be the worst thing we can do. It's providing wood into the habitat for insects, birds, other critters to use. It's free, and it's low impact on staff and resources. Treatment is another option. There is an insecticide that's highly effective. You apply it every 2 years. That will help maintain canopy, and it will also spread the cost out over time, both the ecological cost and the economic cost.
And does that have to be done before there's any
I think
insects
it
in the
may,
tree, or
sometimes
can
it's
you-
okay within the first year, but it's better to do that preemptively. And then the third option is removing the tree, and ideally removing the tree before it's invested, just for everybody's safety. And those trees are going to be trees that are already in poor condition, trees that should have been replaced. Ash is a very common volunteer species, so it sprouts out like crazy because it does so well out here. So we have ash trees that are underneath power lines that get decimated by PGD every year that we may as well just remove. And removal is expensive too, so that's also something we're keeping in mind.
Can you clarify,
Yeah.
when you treat a tree, it has that 2-year effectiveness, right? At some point, are these trees all gonna be gone? No matter what you do?
I think it depends tree by tree. I think there are some trees that are very valuable just based on their size alone and what they give to a park. And Portland, for example, is planning on treating every tree they possibly can, and they haven't said how long. But you know, if you look at my lifetime, it's hard to say if we're gonna be treating ash trees every 2 years for that time. The Midwest has seen a little bit of die-off in emerald ash borer in the 20 years that it's been here, but they still haven't been able to stop treating completely. So I think for right now, we're thinking about 20 years into the future.
And while you're interrupting, so when you talked about that, if the tree goes down, it adds to, will the board things be present, or?
Once the tree is dead, there's nothing for them there, so.
So they die.
They die.
based on that.
Yeah,
Okay, they die rather than move to another.
they'll move to
Yeah.
another tree, but yeah.
So the question was a different form of disposal.
Yes,
besides
we-
putting them-
Yes, wood waste management is something we factored in, and I'll use that in the bid. Oh, you're good.
How long do these guys live?
I don't think very long. It's really just when they're babies that they do the damage.
But they reproduce like this.
Yeah. So just to quickly go over our options. First, doing nothing, like I said, that's kind of more ideal in natural areas where trees aren't moved a lot. One thing they've been finding in the Midwest is that, you know, letting huge stands of ash trees die, it can impact the water table of certain areas. So they might be more prone to flooding because the roots aren't there to hold back all the water in the soil. It increases wildfire risk in some areas. That's also something we kind of have to be mindful of from a natural resources perspective. And then, yeah, as far as we didn't find a lot because honestly, most of our parks are built around streams, not most of them, but a lot of them are. And so most of them are in areas where people frequent. And so we counted about 98. And that's not including places like Twin Creeks, where there's no established trail system. That's gonna be, there's a lot of ash trees there that we need to count, but these are all in areas that might be close to where people or property is. Gonna talk a little bit about the treatment. It's hard to see, but that's what it looks like. I went to a workshop in Salem at Oregon Department of Forestry's campus in May. So there's one insecticide that everyone kind of agrees is the best. It's called amymectin benzoate. It's 95% effective if it's applied perfectly. So it is an injection. You drill tiny holes into the tree and pump the chemical up with a bicycle pump or another pump. And the tree takes it up through its system. It kills the larva. It doesn't really have any impact on pollinators or other birds because it's applied after the tree is seeded. They found the residual amount in leaves is pretty negligible. So it's effective, it's safe. You know, it's Oregon Department of Forestry says if you get good at it, it takes about 30 minutes per tree. So it's relatively quick too. It just has to be applied every 2 to 3 years. And the chemical itself is expensive. But it's a great option for healthy trees that we want to keep and just to spread out the cost. Another thing to note is that it's more effective on larger trees. So kind of 6 inches in diameter is about the smallest it can go to be effective. And then I say if there's more than 30% of canopy loss, it's probably not worth treating the tree. Any questions about that before I move on?
The canopy loss was due to that effect or?
It could be due to other reasons. Ash aren't the healthiest tree in general, so there's a lot of factors. Yeah. And so the last option is removing the tree. And we're going to prioritize high-risk trees that are already in declining health. So there are some trees that might have a really strong canopy, but you go up to it and it's hanging on by 2 or 3 threads because it's been impacted by storms or whatever. So those trees are probably going to end up getting removed. Like I mentioned, there are trees that are in poor locations, under power lines. They might be really close together from overplanting or just volunteers. Smaller diameter trees, I said the average was about 10 inches, but that means there's a lot of trees that are super young, super small, easy to remove before they become a problem. Like I mentioned earlier, the earlier we get on this, the better just for staff, for cost, for arborists. Infested trees are really expensive to remove. They become brittle, they become dangerous. And then as far as what we're going to prioritize, in addition to high-risk trees, is unhealthy trees that we can remove in-house with staff.
What are we looking at in that picture?
That's actually a maple.
This is pretty dramatic.
That's a dramatic picture. I was trying to figure out what was going on.
So that's just an example of a tree. It's been cut for someone to start removing it. It looks pretty healthy on the outside, but the inside's totally rotten.
Well, that's, yeah. Okay. Evocative.
All right, wood waste management, like Gerber mentioned, it's going to become a pretty big deal. You know, landscape recycling places in the Midwest found they had to just stop accepting wood waste at all for long periods of time, just due to how many ash trees were coming in. Clackamas County is already in a quarantine. We have been since I think 2023 as far as moving firewood in and out of the county, and it's now I think a 4 or 5 county region: Clackamas, Marion, Yamhill, Washington, and Multnomah. So the biggest thing with that is just communicating with folks. Talk to the Milwaukee Community Center's firewood program. There are some flyers up. We'll probably end up putting some signs up over there. In general, the less that wood is moved, the better, and that kind of applies for our operations too. So if we're removing trees and the trees can be left in a natural area, that's going to be our priority. If we're removing trees where that doesn't make sense, or so many trees that doesn't make sense, the plan is to chip on site and then store the chips. There's an area near the dog run where the maintenance staff already store excess wood chips and keep them there and keep that area secure for the public.
So the firewood program, so they can't I know, I remember, I mean, I've seen all the signs and the commercials about don't take firewood, you know, on your camping trip, get it there. But it's okay to burn it if you burn it, if
Yeah.
you're burning it locally.
Yeah.
So it's actually a boon for the Milwaukee
Yeah.
Community Center's
They
firewood
need
program.
it.
Yeah, okay.
I still think Oregon Department of Forestry recommends not moving ash material around, just because that's probably how it got here in the first place. And it's not like the outbreak is all over the place right now, it's just in a few select areas, but.
But without people moving wood, do we know the range of an ash borer?
Oh, we do. I don't know off the top of my head, but I think it's only a mile or two of here. It's not very far. So it really is people moving material around. And that includes like industrial use and all that.
Right.
too.
And all of the ashes that you mentioned, all of those act as hosts.
Yes. Olive trees can act as a host and white fringe trees too. White is attracted as an ash tree, but black and ash, they like olive trees as well.
Oh, goodness.
So replanting, that's gonna really be on a case by case basis, but we're definitely planning on replanting and it's gonna be a little bit more dynamic. So landscaped areas, I definitely plan on getting input both from planning and development. I mainly know native trees, so that are ornamental trees for certain areas, but we also want input from the community too, especially when like high profile trees are getting removed. For natural areas, I stopped planting ash trees the year I started, which was 2022, which was the year I was founded Forest Grove. So in a way, we've already been replanting. We plant about 2,000 native trees and shrubs per year, mainly in bare rootstock. But for natural areas, we're gonna count on bare roots, containers, and live stakes, all of which are low cost and pretty effective. The guiding principle is going to be right tree, right place. So those power lines I mentioned, we're probably not going to plant other trees under those, but maybe we'll plant some trees elsewhere in the park. And there's going to be a lot of volunteering community opportunities. You know, this is a bad thing that's happening, but I am kind of excited about all the education's going to spread and get people involved in natural resources work. The last bit is outreach. Melina has been putting together a lot of material and working really hard on getting stuff ready for the public. There are a lot of resources out there. Oregon Department of Forestry has kind of been taking the lead and they have a great website with a map and lots of resources. They've been the ones doing press conferences when it's been down in Portland. They did a walkthrough with us at North Blackness Park that a few of you guys attended. They've been great. We're going to have a landing page on the NCPRD website. Another great idea Melina had is we're going to use some tree tags, with QR codes. So for the trees we treat, there might be like a little emerald tag on there with a QR code that people can scan and learn what we're doing. That also helps me keep track in addition to the mapping. It's a little bit harder on the ground to know which trees we've been to already. Same with trees that might get removed. There's going to be signs up, especially at parks where we're doing a lot of work. There's going to be an FAQ document that we can share with partners, social media posts, volunteer events, all sorts of stuff. One idea we've been kicking around that jurisdictions in the Midwest have done is an adopt an ash program where people might agree to sponsor the treatment of an ash for 10 years or so and pay for the cost of the treatment. They can kind of take ownership of that tree. And that's all I got. I'm happy to take any more questions.
I've been sitting on my tooth.
Yeah.
The S-shaped damage that's done by the larva. Do you even know offhand if any other critters do that?
I don't, but I think it's pretty unique to emerald ash borer. Another good sign is they leave D-shaped exit holes. So I think I have it in the first image. Woodpeckers. Yeah, woodpeckers leave a hole that's round. The emerald ash borer, you can kind of see it's shaped like a D. And that's pretty unique to them as well.
one side.
And a comment about that picture, I'm aware of the NLS board, and I realized I saw a lot of that damage going in.
Yeah.
But I hadn't realized the size, and I appreciated that coin with the two on there.
That is not my photo.
But you included it. And I
Yes.
appreciate that. My other question is just for all of us. How do you know when you're looking at an ash tree that hasn't visibly lost 30% of its canopy already? Is there something that we can be watching for in our own neighborhoods? What are the first signs?
The first signs are usually canopy loss, but you can also look for the D-shaped exit holes, especially anywhere where there's exposed wood. Another sign is, they're called water sprouts. It's when a tree puts out a lot of sprouts on the base of the trunk because it's so stressed out, it's just putting out new growth. That could be a sign. And the Oregon Invasive Species Hotline, I should have included a link, is the place to report anything, and somebody from the Oregon Department of Agriculture is likely to come out and take a look if it seems high risk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you inject the tree, is it one injection for any size tree, or it's based on?
No,
the size
it's
of the
based
tree?
on the diameter, so that was another reason we selected the diameter. We'll double check before we apply, but.
Okay. And you said you apply it after seed, so what does that mean?
I think May and June is kind of the hot months to do it. You can do it afterwards, but it's not as effective.
Daniel?
When you give us the Monroe property site tour, is that on this, is that one of these? And I just don't. It's a different.
I did a brief visual look last time we were out there, but since there's construction happening there, I haven't gone through, and it looks like it's mostly cottonwood in there, unfortunately.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming
Yes,
in.
you
Oh,
know,
I'm
last question. I'm sorry, Sheila.
You guys have to cool
Are
me.
you okay on time?
Yeah, we have a few minutes.
Okay, are there, this will be like all hands on deck is what I'm hearing. Are there any opportunities to partner with educational institutions, just kind of get student help with some of these projects, especially in the summertime, like Clackamas or St. Schellenberg?
Yeah, we don't have anything planned. I did talk briefly to Aves Compartidas. I'm not sure if you're aware of the Willamette Twinning Project. They match local elementary classrooms with classrooms in Mexico that are on the same bird migration paths. And we've done a few field trips with them before, and we did talk about this next year doing something more ash related with them. So that's one way. And I've had other community groups reach out, not specifically about emerald ash borer, but I think a lot of the replanting efforts will be around that, and there should be a lot of opportunities.
Well, there is a forestry program at Clackamas Community College, so maybe there's some opportunity there, or saving the challenge.
Thank you, that was very comprehensive and really
Great.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, before we go to individual reports, I wanted to give you an update on alternates. I know that everybody's very interested in how that's going to go about. So in looking at our bylaws and past practices and when the alternates were added, there was just no way to smoothly offer that to people without opening it. So April is when the positions are going to be posted, and in sub area 1 and sub area 4, there's going to be actual DAC openings that will be posted. But for each of the positions, we will also be posting, asking for alternates. In the case where there's a DAC, where there's an alternate and a DAC person, the person with the second most votes will be asked if they're willing to be an alternate. If that person says no, we will look towards the next one. As when the DAC was first established, we will be rotating the years on the alternate. So we'll come up with a way so that all the alternates will not be expiring at the same time to start out with. But we will be posting and hopefully get an alternate for each area. So that we would have two DAC members and an alternate for each of the sub areas. Okay, so group or committee reports that anyone? Okay, Laura?
I wanted to share that, the Community Choice Grant Design Workshop, I know there's one on February 11th. The Milwaukee Parks and Recreation Board is hosting another one Metro's hosting it, but in collaboration, at ours, we're doing a special monthly meeting, and so it'll be February 18th, 5:30 to 7:30 at the library. I'll invite anyone to come to that. They will also be holding this.
And that would be the Leading Library.
Leading Library, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. 2 chances.
So we're doing the DAC member reports, or we not
Yes.
there, or this is it?
This is it. Oh, Mayor Beatty? Oh, I'm sorry, Grover. At least I'm forgetting everybody.
So I won't take a person.
Please don't.
So, I have a few things. One was, I'm just curious about things that I don't know about, and part of all of them are topics that have been discussed, but I don't know where they stand now. And one of them has to do with being in sub area 1, and given the project, and I'm thrilled to hear we're 70% funded, et cetera, for the park at the Jennings Lodge campus. But what I don't know, and I followed that the Oregon City School District we're negotiating to change the IGA with them, and we've heard no updates on that. So I'm curious, that's the first question, and I can hear that answer, or I can give all my questions at one time.
Well, why don't you, I made a note of that, and I will get that information and get back to you if we have time tonight. Would that be something you could speak to?
Sure.
Okay, yes.
Okay, and then I noticed in here from the November minutes, don't want to go back to that, but it speaks about the approval of finding funding, and I think funding is critically of interest to all of us.
And I know Director Selly can give us an update on that.
Okay, well, specifically where we stand on the process of finding a consultant and what that process will be, et cetera, and how the DAC can participate in that because we have a direct interest and we have a direct tie to the residents. And then I also noticed, I was thrilled to hear, and I'm now confused from what I saw today, so I'd like to get some clarification so I'd better understand the thing about the Milwaukee community transportation. So it used to be a 5-day transportation, as I understood, and then I read in the materials here that it's only a 3-day, so it's a 40% reduction. I know it's not 100% cut, but when I heard the discussions and when I heard the Rivers East people and their proposal, et cetera, the understanding was it was handled. No, we got it covered, but now I see it's a 40% cut as opposed to not a complete recovery. So I'm concerned about that, and when did that get discussed and et cetera? Because I guess my biggest question is, I just want to be clear, I take this position very seriously, and we do represent the constituents, the people who actually pay the tax dollars, et cetera. And to try to keep them informed, we actually did, as I said, at the last meeting, we did have a December meeting, and there was discussion as to things that related to not just parks, it also had to do with libraries, it also had to do with roads, et cetera, but the things that the community cares about. And what I don't know is how we fit into making these choices about the consultant, the sub area piece, but also what I just heard about the alternates. I know that when we did the last election, okay, there was an alternate, let's rephrase that. There was a person who was interested, and have we reached out to, and there's no way to contact that person?
Yeah, there is, but at that point, we the bylaws hadn't passed in order for there to be
I
alternates.
appreciate that.
And so it comes down to equity. If there were other people that might have been interested in the alternate position, that didn't exist at that point in time. I have those 3 people's names and I'm going to be reaching out to them, letting them know that this is going to be posted. But in the past, there's never been an appointment made without having it posted through, on that county page for volunteers.
Well, Anita came on as being someone to fit that. She actually was available, didn't get a position, and she was, but that's history.
Yeah,
But-
through the DAC or, oh, yeah, please.
So the concept of the alternate was approved as part of the updated bylaws last fall.
Correct.
So when we went through the last recruitment process, the board had not approved the concept of alternates.
Agreed.
But now that the board has approved those updated bylaws, that includes this provision for alternates, through the next recruitment cycle, we will be able to start to add alternates to the DAC group. But again, it was just because of the timing of the bylaws update.
Okay. I don't know where to have this conversation. I don't need to be in this meeting. I don't know how much time there is, and I'm not meaning the big, long conversation, but the reality is we know of at least the person for sub-area 1, the person for sub-area 2, and I think there was one other. And I would like to, they may not be able to be alternates and set up and vote, but my commitment, in this very room, 2018, we set out to reshape how community involvement was part of NCPRD, and we've covered a lot of ground till then. So having more people informed, participating, etc. So, like I said, in sub-area 1, we do the community listening sessions to get information. So when I come back to talk to y'all, it isn't just my opinion and what I care about. I talk to people, and these are the things I wanted to know more about. The issue about having those 3 people be invited to sit in, I don't know why not. So they may
Okay, now
not
are you
be
saying
declared.
By sit in, you mean attend meetings?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Have they been invited? Do they even know that the meetings are happening and that the alternate processes? We haven't let people know that, and we already know of people. So that's my concern is, okay, now we'll wait till April and then we'll start then. And
Well, we can be starting right now. Now, we know now that those positions are going to be posted in April.
yes, and either people apply to be the alternate or they are the person, because I didn't understand your information, they or by vote, the person with the highest vote gets the position and the second highest has the alternate option to become the alternate. And if not them, then next, etc. Okay.
Chair Shaw,
Yes.
may I make a point of order? May I call for the orders of the day? Which is a request to go back to the agenda.
Okay, and so we have 2 questions. Jennings Lodge Park and
Fund transportation. Okay, all right.
Okay, but I'd like to challenge just what I heard. This is what's on the agenda. This is me as a DAC representative from sub-area 1, and I am relaying the concerns and a report from that. So I don't know what that was all about, but just want to be clear. I'm happy to move on,
I
but
was thinking it was about the time.
well, that isn't what the call was. The call was we return to the agenda, and this is specifically, I asked before I began speaking. This is about the agenda. This is DAC member report. Okay.
I have answers for you, Greg. To
Thank
answer
you.
your first question about OCSD, thank you for that question. You'll recall that we have a current intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon City School District for development of a park at the Jennings Lodge campus. However, when we went to talk with our new grant partners, we learned that we needed to make some changes to that agreement to comply with their requirements, such as they need the lease agreement and they needed a few more years on that agreement so that we could be eligible for grants. So we have been negotiating the terms of that updated lease agreement with the Oregon City School District representatives. We had hoped to go to their board meeting last fall so that the superintendent could present that lease agreement and so the NCPRD staff could talk to them about the project. We're still finessing some of the terms. We hope to finalize that this January. We're getting a little nervous because we need to start construction very, very soon on that project, but we have to have an agreement in place before we do so. And I'm very glad you're asking me because I'm looking at the two of you from Jennings Lodge and hoping that you will help us get the word out when we do have, when we do make that visit to the Oregon City School District Board so that you can be there to support the project. So we will definitely be in touch when we get to that point. Fingers crossed that we will be able to go to the OCSD school board in February. So we'll be in contact. So thank you so much for asking about that.
When was construction slated to start?
Spring.
Okay, well, so we'd still be on schedule.
January.
Okay.
I'm gonna say it's been a little wet. So, you know, spring start is okay, but obviously we need to move on
can't
this
start
as
without
soon as possible. So if you have the opportunity to share with an Oregon City School District Board member that you would like this project to move forward very quickly and that you would like this lease agreement to be kind of finalized quickly, you know, please feel welcome to do so. Yeah, we're feeling a little concerned about the timeline too. The ballot measure, another great question. So last fall, you recall that the board provided NCPRD staff with the authority to go out and hire a consultant. We are actually, Erin and I are actively having conversations with consultants and partners right now. We hope to bring a proposal to the NCPRD board for not the consultants, because we have the authority to move forward with that, but there might be a major partner that will help us with this effort. And so when we have all of those details in place, we will go before the NCPRD board because we committed to them that we would keep them informed and through that public process, keep all of you informed. We anticipate having that conversation by mid-February at the latest. Again, another very tight timeline that we're working on. So stay tuned for that. Jessica will send an email to you if there's a board discussion, just so that you're well aware. And then the third item, I hear you about your concerns relative to the transportation program. We're providing 3 days of service. We used to provide 5 days of service. My short answer is we are not providing any NCPRD general fund subsidy any longer. We can't because we can't afford it. And you might recall that the transportation program, when it was run by NCPRD, was a combination of general fund subsidy and grants. So now we just have the grants. They're generous grants through Health and Human Services at Clackamas County, but it only funds 3 days a week. So we hear you, but that was a budget reduction. We are just pleased that we're able to return to some level of service. Now, keep in mind too, that we have been actively working with a lot of those riders of that transportation program because a lot of them are eligible for the TriMet Lift service program. Okay. And the Health and Human Services department at the Clackamas County is also working on another potential, I want to call it, it's similar to like an Uber system. They're working on potentially allowing some of the riders that don't fit well into those 2 other programs to use that program. So really, Milwaukee Community Center staff have been working with the individuals impacted to try to find the right vehicle or transportation program for them. So we hope that even though it's just 3 days a week, that we actually are serving everybody in the way that they need to be served. It's not perfect, but that's the situation because we don't have any more general fund subsidy in that program. I think that's all the questions from Gerber, I think.
Okay. Lisa?
I think Daniel was up first.
Oh, Daniel?
Okay. Just a few kind of announcements. If you don't know, TriMet has come out with a proposed bunch of service cuts across the district. I have looked at some of those for Milwaukee. I have not tried to match where it's a service reduction to parks, but I encourage people to go on and look look at that and think about that. There is a meeting, they're having a series of public meetings around the metro area, and there's one tomorrow night at 5 p.m. at the Harmony Road campus of Clackamas Community College. I know there's another one later this month at the Clackamas Community College Oregon City campus. So those are the two local area meetings I know of, but if people are concerned about cuts in Milwaukee, it's taking away all service off of Lake Road and off of Oatfield. It's reducing the evening service between downtown Milwaukee and the Clackamas Town Center. There are definitely some areas of concern. I just encourage everybody to home in on that and make your comments to TriMet about lines that you don't believe should be cut. In Kia's report, she mentioned on the 24th, the 24th, an event in Spring Park. I wanted to say the next 2 Saturdays, anybody who wants to help out in Spring Park and Elk Rock Island, there are work parties both Saturday mornings. And I suspect there's a lot of debris to be picked up after the high water of the river last month. And finally, if anybody, I don't know how many people have ever been to the Minthorn Springs wetland. It is not a City of Milwaukee park. It's not an NCPRD park. It actually belongs to the Wetlands Conservancy, but it is across 37th Avenue behind the Planet Fitness. The Wetlands Conservancy has a survey out for what people would like to see there in terms of improvements, in terms of boardwalks, bird blinds, various different things that are being considered. If you are interested in taking that survey, you can email me and I can send you the link. I didn't think about it beforehand today, but
yeah, thank you. Daniel?
Yeah. Let's see. I did get a postcard from TriMet yesterday about that. So people might get reminders about those service cuts. I hope it's appropriate, but I did just want to say that Jeanette's call to order. Just a reminder for if I can, for the member reports, we do have a time limit on it. So I think it's fair to treat it more like a report and not a Q&A. And if we have time at the end, like right now, or we have a couple minutes after, if we chose to add some time, I think it'd be fair, but I have 2 minutes. And then I also want to recognize Josh's comment about the tire removal. I know we brought it up earlier, but I live right by Mill Park. So yeah, I was walking my dogs and I was like, what is this? Like 300 tires sitting in the parking area. Jeez. And it's pretty crazy considering otherwise, you have street parking and everyone knows how much people fly up that road. So there's 4 spots and a lot of people, especially elders and people with kids, like to use those 4 parking spaces to have a safe place to enter the park. And so that was pretty disheartening to see someone just illegally dump there. One of my neighbors did take 10, I think, to use planters. So they were spending so big, but yeah, that was a bummer. And then the last thing I have is just a personal update. If I can, I have a new resident in my house. So sub area 4. So it is, I think it is sub area news to some degree. So Emily had our son on the 23rd.
Okay, so, sorry.
No, that's that. Yeah.
So is there any additional business or items? Oh, thank you.
I will do, I'm gonna report and then I need to run unfortunately, but everything was covered at mostly in the division report, Lunar New Year, big event coming up in February, but just a quick update on that 180,000 that the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation is pledged to through the end of this fiscal year. They did a terrific job fundraising. In particular, they did a donate dinner event at the Milwaukee New Seasons, and just wanted to brag for them. They raised over $16,000, which is amazing for that location. And they're close to, but have not met their 180,000 benchmark. So they're willing to take any donations up to the still. Please reach out to the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation. They're about $50,000 short still, but just want to recognize their generosity and hard work, because they're a tremendous organization. So that was it.
So if there's anything that you would like to add to the next agenda, please email me or Jessica, and we'll see about getting that on. So thank you. I now adjourn the meeting at 7:02.